Hey, and welcome back to the Straight No Chaser podcast. And I am your host, Bishop. Today's conversation it's about something that cracks me up, right? Every time I hear somebody say, "Man, I miss when Hollywood wasn't political." And I always look at them like, "Baby, what shows were you watching?" Right? Honestly, because Hollywood has always been political. Always. Since before most of us were even born. Always. Now, but I'm going to tell you something. The only difference is back then, they knew how to wrap it in a laugh track or some other patriotic background music, or a love story. But they made it so that you forgot. They were teaching you a whole lesson, right? While you were distracted by the popcorn. That was the goal. And I'm going to tell you, and I know some of you say, no, that can't be true. That can't be true. I'm going to prove it to you. All right. I'm going to prove it to you. This hit me hard the other day because I was in my bedroom and I had it on one of those nostalgic channels, that show the old school TV shows. And I was watching Family Ties, and Alex P. Keaton came up on the screen. Michael J. Fox, Alex P. Keaton. And it was one of those episodes where he was teaching his little brother about economics, and he was discussing Reaganomics and all of that other stuff and spouting off all these conservative values, right? And his parents were old school liberals, but he's spouting off hardcore conservative values. And then I said, hold all the way up, right? That wasn't just a family comedy. That was a political debate every Thursday night. And it wasn't even subtle. That's the thing. It wasn't. It was right in your face, putting conservative values, pitting them up against liberal values. Every daggone episode. So today, we're going deep today. We're going to talk about how Hollywood has always been political. Always. That's not a new thing. From the movies your parents loved to the sitcoms you even grew up on. They've always loved it, to the blockbusters that we actually stream today. The messaging was there. You just didn't notice it. But trust me, it noticed you. Okay? It always noticed you. That's the thing that we seem to forget. So when we look back at the span of movies, right? Like during that time, during the World War II era, I know I'm going back. I wasn't even born during that time. But I know enough to know from doing my research and from understanding history, right? Movies weren't just entertainment. They never were. They were propaganda. Why We Fight documentaries, produced by the U.S. government to rally support from American citizens on what American government was doing. Think about it. That's exactly what that was. Casablanca in 1942. That's not just a love story. People think it is because they get so caught up in the iconic scenes and stuff. But it's not just a love story. It was a call for U.S. involvement in World War II. But folks don't pay attention to that because they want you to be caught up in everything else. They sold patriotism to Americans with a side of romance. You thought you were there for Humphrey Bogart, but you walked out ready to enlist. That's what happened. You got indoctrinated. You didn't. That most of the people during that time frame got indoctrinated. They didn't even realize it. That's the thing. They didn't even realize it. And it didn't stop there. During the Cold War, Hollywood became a battlefield of ideas. Communism was painted as evil, and America as the shining light. Right? That's propaganda. During the McCarthy era and the Blacklist era, Writers, actors, directors blackballed for as communist sympathizers. Because how dare them have a difference of opinion, right? You're not allowed to have a different opinion. You could lose your whole career at the time for attending the wrong party. And I don't mean the after party. Okay? Hollywood was always a mirror, but it was also a megaphone. Always. They weren't just reflecting culture, they were shaping it. And guess what? Hollywood is still doing that. That hasn't ended. That hasn't ended. One of our biggest propaganda machines are using sitcoms as Trojan horses in America. That's one of our biggest propaganda machines is the television with sitcoms. Think about it. Well, like I told you in the beginning of this episode, I started off with Family Ties. Just first of all, go back to Family Ties. Alex P. Keaton, he idolized Reagan in a liberal household. He was raised by liberal parents. Liberal parents. But it also reflected the real tensions of the 80s. Boomers versus their kids. Conservatives loved Alex P. Keaton. They loved him. He was like the model young Republican. But liberals laughed at him. They didn't take it seriously. They didn't think that people were watching that and ingesting and learning and becoming what they were. But it was genius. They sold conservatism as cute, smart, even a little sexy. A little sexy. Michael J. Fox was fine, but let's be honest. They made fiscal responsibility look like a heartthrob. That's what it was. Funny thing is, right now, Alex P. Keaton wouldn't even recognize the Republican Party. That's the funny part. He wouldn't even recognize them. Reagan wouldn't recognize it. But okay, I digress. You think to other sitcoms like All in the Family with Archie Bunker. He was a lovable, racist, sexist, xenophobe. That's what he was. That's exactly, if we're going to be honest about what that character was, they did tackle civil rights, they tackled feminism, immigration, but they also normalized political debate in living rooms. They called him lovable. I call him a red flag. But see, America laughed along with him instead of at him. They made it seem okay. That's how you sneak politics into a laughing track. You normalize it. Oh, that old guy, he always says, oh, just ignore him. It's just nothing. No, it's something. He's saying something. We don't have to agree with it, but to just be dismissive of it is promoting it. You're helping to promote it like that. Then we had the opposite side of the spectrum that we had the Cosby Show that presented the Huxtables as an ideal black family. We loved them because it countered the negative stereotypes. But it also promoted respectability politics. If you pay attention, it promoted respectability politics. The message was if you just work hard and you dress nice, racism won't hold you back. That was a lie. Because if you watch the Cosby Show, there was no racism. But that wasn't reality. It was positive, but it also said, if you're not living like the Huxtables, maybe you're the problem. See how tricky that is? Real tricky. Then you got the Family Matters. And it was often lighthearted. It was, but the episodes about racism and police brutality, they got slipped in. Right, y'all remember that episode when Eddie got profiled by the police? That wasn't just a Friday night laugh. That was a whole civics lesson sandwiched between Steve Urkel knocking over furniture. It was Hollywood again. Teaching. right? It also happened with movies. It also did y'all forget about Rocky IV, Rocky versus Drago? That was the USA versus the USSR. The entire movie was a Cold War victory fantasy, the entire movie. But you thought it was about boxing. Nah, it was about America flexing against Russia with a sweaty training montage. That's what that was. It was still propaganda. Go back and look at it if you're unsure. Top Gun. There's another one. The Navy signs up. The Navy sign-ups, they skyrocketed after that release. So y'all know, right? So y'all know. They skyrocketed after that release. Now, the Pentagon provided planes in exchange for script approval for Top Gun. That wasn't a romance movie, y'all. That was a 2-hour Navy commercial with Tom Cruise grinning through a pair of aviators. Yep, that's what happened. That's what happened. Rambo, First Blood Part 2, they rewrote Vietnam. If only America had fought harder, we would have won. It was really just comfort food for wounded national pride. That's all. Disney films, the villains are often coded as foreigners, effeminate men, or the other, right? Lion King, dictatorship under Scar, restored monarchy under Simba. Disney had y'all singing Hakuna Matata, but baby, that was a civics lesson about overthrowing illegitimate rulers. Okay? And the culture wars on TV just kept going as time kept going. In the 90s, we got Friends, white middle class life as the default American experience in apartments that, frankly, nobody could if you didn't have money, right? If you didn't have money, you couldn't afford to live in those places. But okay, you gotta love fantasy. Will and Grace brought LGBTQ plus lives into the mainstream, but sanitized them because it didn't want to give America too much of it. Propaganda again. They gave you gay representation, but only the palatable version. Funny, stylish, but never too radical. Right? Reality TV, when you come to things like Cops, it shaped the public opinion on crime and policing. The Apprentice with Donald Trump, of all people, celebrated ruthless capitalism. Donald Trump didn't become president out of nowhere. America spent a decade practicing saying, "You're fired." Children's programming, Captain Planet, environmental activism packaged for kids while corporations kept polluting anyway. G.I. Joe ain't nothing but Cold War soldier fantasies. Sesame Street is integration and social issues in a kids show. Now I'm gonna tell you why all y'all think that this stuff is new, because it's not. A lot of it's because it's streaming in all these different places because content is tailored to political tribes now. Netflix has socially progressive content. Amazon and Apple TV, they have heavy investments in global narratives, right? Then when you get to your movies, your things like your Captain Americas, it's all about American exceptionalism. It's just got tights on. Black Panther gave you the representation, but it's still designed not to threaten the status quo. Don't believe me? Killmonger had a point. They just made him the villain so you wouldn't listen. Award shows. Celebs making political speeches. Viewers saying keep politics out of it, forgetting politics paid for half the shows they grew up loving. There is no concept of politics out of it. Good luck with that. The impact on all of this stuff is it shapes who we admire, who we fear, and who we emulate. It reinforces our stereotypes. It influences voting behavior. and social attitudes. Yep. It creates generational divides. What the boomers have absorbed versus what millennials absorb versus what Gen Z grew up with. You wonder why your uncle still quotes Archie Bunker like it's gospel, why he does that? Because Hollywood raised him to. He grew up on it. Now I'm going to tell you, you can break this spell when you're watching this stuff. It's ways to break the spell. This is how you watch these things critically, okay? Because, see, the school system isn't going to teach this because they want to indoctrinate you with the TV. But this is how you watch this stuff critically. Ask who benefits from the storyline. You need to start noticing what's being normalized and separate the nostalgia from the impact. Real talk. You can love the shows, but you got to recognize the agenda. Because, see, ain't nothing wrong with enjoying Rocky or Lion King, right? But just know when you're eating entertainment and when you're swallowing propaganda. It's important for you to know the difference. Extremely important. So you can also teach your kids, your babies, how to know the difference. So the next time someone says Hollywood just got political, hit them with the truth. It's always been political. This is not new. Always. From Archie Bunker to Wakanda. From Rocky to Captain Planet. They didn't sneak politics in the back door. It was always sitting at the head of the table. You just didn't notice the fine print, that's all. It's okay, just accept that. But if this episode has got you thinking, share it with somebody who swears they don't like politics and entertainment, but got teary-eyed at Top Gun. Leave that. Let's have that conversation, right? Let's have that conversation, because they can just leave that. If you love this breakdown, share it with somebody who swears, trust me, that swears that they just hate it. It's going to, this politics in Hollywood, it's going to spark conversation. Trust me. Watch with your eyes open. Laugh when you want, but cry when you need to, but never forget. There's always a message behind the movie or the TV show. Always. And until next time, I'm going to wrap this podcast up like I wrap up all my podcasts. Don't let nobody live rent-free in your head. Don't feed the trolls. And you can accomplish anything you put your mind to as long as you stay consistent.